Erev Tov, everyone. We're continuing the Book of Mitzvot, Sefer HaChinuch, with the 8th mitzvah, Shelo lehotir mi besar Pesach, which is a negative commandment not to leave over any meat from the Korban Pesach. Shelo lehotir klum mi besar Pesach, not leaving anything. Lemachorato, until the following day, Shehu Yom Chamisha Asar Benisan, which is the daytime of the 15th. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Velo totiru mimenu ad boker, you shall not leave any of it until morning. Mishorsha mitzvah zu, the purpose of this mitzvah, mashikatu b'shchitato, that was written with regards to the slaughtering of the Korban Pesach, again, lizkor niseh Misraim, to recall the miracles of Egypt that Hashem performed on our behalf in Mitzrayim. V'zeh shenitzavinu shelo leotir mimenu, this that we're commanded not to leave over any meat. Ha'inyan kederech melachim v'sarim, again, similar to the manner of the kings and the ministers. She'enam tzrichim lehotir mitavshilam miyom el yom. They don't need to leave over their cooked dishes from one day to the next. For us, who are not kings and ministers, oh, you didn't finish your chicken? Put it in the fridge. We're going to have it again tomorrow. We don't waste food. Back then, kings, ministers, and maybe even today, kings and ministers, I don't think they eat leftovers. They got fresh food being made for them every day. That's the reason. And therefore the pasuk says, Shim yotir mimenu, if a person does leave over, sheisaref, it's to be burned. Kedavar she'en hefetz bo, like something that is unwanted. Kederech malchei adama, like the kings of the land who don't want their leftovers. V'kol zeh lizkor v'likboa balev shebeoto zman galanu Hashem yibarach me'abdut v'na'asenu b'nei chorin v'zachinu lemachut v'gdula. And all of this is to recall and still in their heart that at that time Hashem delivered us from slavery, and we were made into free men, and we received this status of royalty. Din ha-mitzvah b'psachim, the law of this mitzvah is also found in Masechet Psachim. V'noeget b'zecharim u'b'inkevot b'zman habayit, it's applicable to men and women in the time of the Beit HaMikdash. V'ha'over alea v'hotir aval alav, if someone transgressed this mitzvah, he's violated a lav, a prohibition. Aval en lo kin alav zeh, we do not get malkut if someone left over meat till the next morning. Because it is remedied by a positive commandment. What's the positive commandment? Anything that is left until morning, you have a mitzvah to burn it. And it's a general rule, any prohibition that is redeemed by a mitzvah obligation, en lokin alav, is not something that incurs malkut. Okay. Mitzvah tet, which is mitzvah hashbatat Hametz. The obligation to destroy Chametz is mitzvah number 9. Le'asir kol lechem Hametz mimishkenotenu. We have a commandment to remove all Hametz from our dwellings. B'yom arba'a Nisan, Asar ben Nisan, on the 14th day of Nisan, Shneimar, ach b'yom harishon tashbitu seor mibatechem. You have to remove all leaven from your house and eliminate all leaven. Uperusho rishon kodim la Pesach. Here, the Bayom HaRishon means meaning the day before Pesach. So, meaning as much as you clean your house before Pesach, 2-3 weeks before you do spring cleaning, that has nothing to do with the mitzvah of removing and eliminating your Chametz, which is the mitzvah bi'ur Chametz. Why do we have this mitzvah? Mishoshe mitzvah zu. Again, so that we could recall the miracles that took place in Egypt. Like we wrote with regards to the Korban Pesach. Dinei mitzvah, the laws of this mitzvah, there's quite a few. Kegon, she'at bi'uro minayom matai, for example, when do we start destroying the Hametz? Umayi ashbatato, and how do we destroy the Hametz? Be'eze makom tzarich lechapso, where do I have to look for Hametz? Be'eze makom eno tzarich, where do I do not need to look for Hametz? And when am I obligated to eliminate Chametz if I'm going away on a journey before Pesach? And what would be the law if the 14th falls out on Shabbat? And the details of nullifying with your mouth. It's the Kal Hamira statement. Those are things that it's in addition to the destruction. And all the details of the mitzvah mevoarim b'Pesach Rishon is mentioned in the first 2 chapters of Pesach Rishon. Today we have one Masechet Pesachim, but in the olden days there used to be 2 parts to the Masechet. The first 4 chapters and chapter 10, which was Pesach Rishon, because that dealt a lot with Pesach, the holiday, and 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 dealt with the Korban Pesach. So that was Pesach, the second Pesach. This mitzvah applies in every location and all times. For men and women. And a person who does not eliminate his Chametz on Erev Pesach, bitel asech de tashbitu. He has violated a biblical commandment of eliminating Chametz. And if there's Chametz in his dwellings, he violates a lav. Shneimar seor lo yimatzeh bebatechem. You cannot have leaven found in your homes. Aval en lokin al lav zeh. We do not get malkut if you leave leaven in your homes. Because this is a violation that did not have any action. You just kind of left it there, so there was no physical action involved. Because we know the rule, every time you perform every time there's a prohibition involved, but there was no actual action that involved an action, then there is no malkut, there's no lashes that come as a punishment. Okay. Short mitzvot. Mitzvah number 10. Mitzvat achilat matzah. The mitzvah to eat matzah on Pesach. Lechol lechem matzah. This is a commandment to eat matzah. Belel chamisha asa benisan, on the night of the 15th, which is the night of Pesach. Shnei mar. Hiasu mimin dagan, and it has to be made from the 5 grains, which is wheat, barley, spelt, rye, or oats. Shnei mar. This pasuk says, ba'erev tochelu matzot. In the evening you shall eat matzot. And the explanation is, this is in reference to the 15th of Nisan. Ben bizman sheyeh sham Pesach, or bizman shelo yeh sham. This applies when the Korban Pesach is with us, or even nowadays when we don't have the meat of the Korban Pesach, we still have a biblical obligation to eat matzah. Mishorshe mitzvah zu, again the purpose of this mitzvah, mashekatu b'Korban Pesach, like we wrote with what we said about the Korban Pesach, to remember the miracles of Hashem that He performed to us at the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim. Dinei mitzvah, the laws of this mitzvah, kegon shimur hatzarich lamatzot, which we call matza shmura. Matza shmura is guarding the production of the matzot from the beginning of the production to the end. Someone's watching it. Ve'inyan lishatan, how the dough is kneaded. The dough has to stay overnight. Ube'eze mayim niloshot, and which water can be used to knead. Ve'shiur achilatan lekol hapachot, and the minimum amount of matzah that you need to eat. Ve'yeter prateam, and all the remaining details, mevarim bePesach Rishon, are elaborated in the Pesach Rishon, like we said before, second, third, and last chapter of Masechet Pesachim. This mitzvah applies in all locations and all times, for men and women. And a person who transgresses this nullifies, violates a mitzvah commandment. We've already said, we said this yesterday, the Bet Din has the authority to coerce a person to comply with the law when he is violating a mitzvah deoraita. Let's do one more. Mitzvah Yud Aleph. The 11th mitzvah is Shelo yimatzeh Hametz birshutenu. That we cannot find Hametz in our house. So we alluded to this 2 mitzvot ago. Kol yemei HaPesach, this is all days of Pesach. Shneimar, the pasuk says, Shivat yamim seor lo yimatzeh batechem. For 7 days you cannot have any Chametz. Ube'aruch hachamenu zichronai v'racha, our rabbis explain, Lav davka beito. Even though the pasuk says, bebatechem, in your homes, it's not only your homes. Ela kol shebirshuto, anywhere in your domain. V'lav davka seor shu mechametz. And not only leaven. Leaven is sourdough, by the way, in case you're wondering. Seor in the Torah is sourdough. Not only that, which ferments, which induces fermentation. Dehu adin chametz, but it applies to ordinary chametz, any product that's been leavened. The seor v'chametz chadhu le'inyan isuro, because leaven and chametz are the same with respect to this prohibition. Mishosheh mitzvah, the purpose of this mitzvah, kadesh nizkor le'olam, so we should recall for all time, hanisim shena'asu lanu b'yetziat Mitzrayim, the miracles that were done on our behalf by Hashem. Kemo shekatuv b'seah Pesach, like we wrote by slaughtering the lamb for Pesach. V'nizkor ma she'era lanu k'inyan zeh, We should also recall that at the time of the Yetziat Mitzrayim, something similar happened. What was that? We all might remember this. Shemitoch chipazon ha'yetziah, due to the haste of the leaving, afinu ha'isa matza, the Jews baked the dough as unleavened matzah. Ki lo yachelu leitmamea ad shachmitz. They weren't able to delay until the dough would rise. Kemo shekatuv vayofu et habatzek. The pasuk says that they baked the dough like that. They weren't able to have it rise. Dinah mitzvah, the laws of this mitzvah, quite numerous as well. Kegon im hivkitchem so biyad acherim adino. What happens if you deposit chametz in someone else's possession? Or acherim beyado. Or somebody takes their chametz and deposits by you. Vechen chametz hekdesh. What if you have chametz that is belongs to the temple treasury? Beyado. You have something in your possession. Or shel goy. Or you have a chametz of a non-Jew that was deposited by you. B'acharayut shelo b'acharayut. Either with the Jew accepts responsibility on this chametz or not. V'din goy alam sheivkilo chametz. Or you have an aggressive non-Jew who forcefully gives you his chametz. V'din ta'arovet chametz imovrin alav. Also, what happens if you have a mixture containing chametz, ingredients? Ve'apat sheibsha madino. And you have bread that became moldy. What's the law with that? All of these laws mevarim bepesach rishon are found in the first 3 chapters of Masechet Pesachim. This applies both to men and women. In all locations and all times. And one who transgresses this, he purposely allows chametz to be found in his domain. He actually violates 2 prohibitions. Number 1, mishum bal yira'eh ubal yimatzeh, not having chametz be seen and not having chametz found in your domain. Velokeh kol zman she'asa bo ma'aseh, one incurs malkut as in any instance where he performed an action. Kigon shechimetz isa ve'inicha bebeito. For example, if he intentionally leavened the dough and left it in his home. Or shelakach chametz v'itznio bebeito. Or he purchased chametz on Pesach and stored it in his house. But if he didn't do an action when violating this avera, but he just decided to keep his chametz in his home, he didn't sell it to a goy, he does not incur malkut for that. Like we said before, the general rule is that every time you do a prohibition without an action, there is no malkut. Yes?
After Pesach, and before Pesach, of course, I sell it to a goy, but I intended that I'm only using it after Pesach.
Yeah, there are people that are strict in saying not to do that, but halachically it's fine. It's sound. It's not yours. Selling to a goy is, at the end of the day, it's not yours. So you don't own a chametz, it's not on your possession, it's on your property. That's okay. Okay? Let's stop here. We'll continue. I'm not here tomorrow, but someone else will continue. We'll continue B'ezrat Hashem this next week.